Hello and welcome to the Craft Beer Corner. For today's beer review, we're jumping into a collaborative brew between Fair State Brewing Company and Mikkeller. Been a while since we've done a Fair State. We did a Mikkeller not that many reviews ago, but this was a collaboration between the two, though this was physically brewed and packaged at Fair State's facility in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Of course, Mikkeller, their stateside op is San Diego, California. So this specific beer is called New Territories. It's a Hazy IPA, and it's not stratospherically high ABV, just 5.8% on this one. And they do tell us some interesting information about this on the back of the can, so I will tell you about that first. It says that they are using a genetically modified yeast and active fermentation. They dry hopped and yada, yada, yada. But that genetically modified yeast, I'm really interested to see what impact we may be able to discern in this beer. But it sounds really nice. Pretty cool kind of abstract art, label artwork there. It's the best way I know to describe it. So not much else to talk about. We're going to get this cracked and poured into our nice tall all-purpose glass. This is another one that I forgot that I had. I found in the back of my cupboard. Not sure I've actually ever used it, but let's get this poured in. This holds really large volumes of beer. This is a pint, so this should have no problem holding this whole beer in. This beer is also clearly not having a problem forming a nice head here either. So I'm going to just kind of slow it down and take my time as we go a little further up. This is pouring a really nice, true, deep golden yellow color as well, I can tell you. Looks really, really nice. It's going to get a nice, thick head here. No problem. No problem at all. Yeah, we got that all in there. Big, thick, creamy, foamy head. I think that's just about the last of it. Perfect. Huge aromas coming off of this beer. This glass, like my other all-purpose, kind of the same shape, though it's a little more narrow at the bottom, almost like the style you would see on a Hefeweizen glass. But then up top, like works so well with so many beer styles. And this particular shape, just like with my other all-purpose glass, especially when you get a nice head like this, it really works well with IPAs that are big on aromatics. So let's take the visual. Yeah, true, bright, deep yellow golden color. It is that classic color I think about when I think of an IPA. It is stunning to look at in the glass. It is a beautiful beer. This one's quite active in terms of carbonation. There's a mix of really super tiny, super tight, fine champagne-like bubbles. Those are rushing up really, really quick. That's very fast carbonation on the really, really small ones. And then there's some kind of medium small ones. So I'm kind of expecting this head is going to hold for a while, even though it's pretty active in terms of carbonation. It's mostly that tinier, finer kind of carbonation rushing up. And when that happens, it tends to not collapse the heads as much, but actually keeps kind of renewing the head as you're drinking on the beer. So it looks fantastic. Let's get over for a full sniff. Oh yeah. Immediate big hop aromas jumping right out of this glass. So this one has kind of a mix of tropical fruit, a little bit of citrus, and a little bit of kind of an earthy and slight kind of resiny twinge to it. I'm not picking up anything on this that really smells floral at all. Not really anything super pine laden, but it's very strong with tropical fruit, pineapple, papaya, and citrus on the nose on this one is kind of a mix of grapefruit and lemon. Yeah, it smells really, really good. It's a nice blend of hop aromas jumping out of this glass, and really, honestly, they have a lot of equal voice. The one that doesn't really pop out quite as heavily or prevalently, but you can pick it up, is kind of the earthier side of the hop and that slight little resinous quality. But again, it's kind of minor. It's dominated by tropical fruit and citrus on the nose, and it smells absolutely fantastic. Really, really nice aroma here. So yeah, all right, this head may well make a giant mess of my beer, but we're going to jump right in anyway, so take one. Yeah, that's a very nice hazy IPA. Fair State Mikkeller together. I'm not surprised. So this is very much a classic hazy. It's big on big hop aromas they extracted out of here. Really, really big. The flavor is also big on hop flavor. And as with most hazies, as is typical with this style, the bitters are dialed back. There are some that are present in this. You still know you're drinking an IPA, but compared to a standard or West Coast or any other sub-style, it's dialed back. Indeed, even dare say for a normal hazy, I would say this is maybe on the milder end of the spectrum in terms of hop bittering intensity. If I had to just guess, 10 to 15 IBUs, that's my perception. So take it with a grain of salt, because perception is very much a personal thing. But that's where it feels about to me. But this is a classic hazy IPA. It's a story all about the hop aroma and the hop flavor, and they are big on this in this beer, as you would expect. So big, amazing tropical fruit aromas, made a lush, beautiful head. It's the classic color. So far, this beer is off to a great start. It's checking all the boxes for a great hazy. And really, for me, as I'm reflecting on what I got aroma and flavor-wise, this is a very well-balanced beer. When I personally like just a little bit more presence from the hop bittering, yeah, I mean, I would always want that anyway. But this is, even for a hazy, maybe on the milder end. Maybe just extract a few more alpha acids in the boil to give it a little more. You're not going to overpower these big, bold hop flavors or the aromas at all, but it does give a little more extra substance to the beer. It certainly helps on the finish side of the equation, and it just is another flavoring layer. That's the way I look at bittering. It's another sensory experience. But very, very well done. Very, very nice beer. So pretty complex in terms of flavor profile. You get a lot of what you got on the nose in the flavor, though the kind of subtle earthiness that you could get on the aroma is actually far more prevalent on the flavor profile here. It does actually come out quite strong, the kind of earthy side of the hop. And indeed, it's that flavor trait that is kind of the dominant driver of the bitters on this one, as mild as they may be. So there's a lot happening. It's a really big beer. It's very nice. It's layered. Very nice example of a hazy on first sip. And I'm going to jump back in. We're going to pick apart this body mouthfeel, let everything re-intensify. I'm going to be paying attention to see if I notice any interesting yeast qualities with that genetically modified yeast. If not, you know, it is what it is, but it's a very good beer here. So body mouthfeel in particular, anything I missed. Then we'll talk more specifics about the balance and the finish, but very good on first sip. Take two. It's nice. The body and the mouthfeel on this is really good. It's really quite good. This is only 5.8% ABV, not super high, but it's got a nice full round medium body to it. It's actually got presence when you swallow. You can feel it. It's not heavy. It shouldn't be at 5.8, but it's top tier for the ABV range and the style. I would have to say the same is true with the mouthfeel. There's actually, I'm impressed a little bit more with the mouthfeel even than I am with the perfection of the body. Mouthfeel, if anything, is a bit more robust and resistant than you would typically expect. And this is one that when you agitate on the palate, it does get quite creamy, very lush, but you can really feel the resistance on this. And it pairs well with this nice full medium body. Very, very nice. In terms of re-intensification of flavor here, yeah, it definitely happened. And you're very clearly picking out matching flavors that match what you get into the aroma in this one. You don't always, but in this one, it is very clear. There is pineapple flavor. There is indeed papaya flavor that comes through. And on the citrus side, it does kind of taste like a mix of nondescript citrus on the flavor side. But if you really are scrutinizing it, you can pick out pockets where it pops in. Oh, that tastes like lemon. Oh, that tastes like grapefruit. That's kind of the two that pop out the most. But it's very, very nice. It's a very good beer. In terms of, am I picking up anything, and did I in the aroma, am I getting anything that tastes like an interesting yeast characteristic? No. And I don't know what they used. I'm not picking out anything bizarre, but whatever they modified and did with it, I'm sure that it did its job, because at day's end, this is a really, really nice hazy IPA. The other thing that I can say on second sip, this is a pretty common trait with most IPAs of any stripe, but the bitters do become a bit more pronounced. Again, this is still much more on the mild side compared to even an average hazy, but they do become a bit more pronounced. And again, it is that kind of earthy side. It's that earthy back to it. So it's kind of that same kind of flavor quality you get from a British Fuggle, but maybe even milder still on the bitters. It's very mild, but it's there. And what it does in terms of where the finish goes in this beer is it actually surprisingly does help drive the length out. Now, this is not a West Coast style IPA. It's just a hazy, and it is on the more conservative end of the bittering spectrum, but this actually has a decent bit of longevity on the back. It is a bit subtle, but it's longer than I would expect considering the initial impression of bitters up front. So I would say it, compared to most hazies, it's probably just sitting in the average range, but from what I perceived in the glass, it's definitely longer than I expected. So overall, I think this is a very, very good, very well put together hazy. I mean, I've got multiple sips out of this over multiple minutes. That head is still holding true, just as though, you know, when I first started, obviously it settled, but I mean, it's doing a great job. This beer has a lot going for it. It's kind of checking all the boxes. Excellent, excellent hazy. I'm going to take my time, sip on this one, call it my scores. When we come back, we will get this beer ranked from top to bottom. All right, now that we've gotten to enjoy this beer, we're going to get it ranked. This was Fair State Brewing Company in collaboration with Mikkeller. New Territories is the name of the beer. Hazy IPA clocking in at 5.8% ABV. This one was brewed and canned at the Fair State facility in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So really good beer here, really nice hazy, very enjoyable, a lot of big bold aroma and flavor. And they did use an experimental yeast, which admittedly I couldn't really detect anything in there out of the norm, but I'm sure that it served some greater purpose towards making this a very tasty beer. So we will go right through the scores. So starting with the aroma, it was very bold, it was very pungent on this. Had a majority of the classic underlying hop aromas that you might pick out, and indeed a very nice pungency, and the ones that did pop out smelled really, really nice together. The aroma I did give a perfect 10 out of 10. For the taste was equally as big and complex as this. This being a hazy, of course, it is focusing on extracting big aroma and flavor and rolling back on the bitters. This, for a hazy, though, was still on the milder end of the spectrum, and while I did enjoy tremendously every flavor I got, I did crave just a little more bitters. Even though it's a hazy, still just a little more presence, I think would have added another layer to the flavor profile and added a bit more depth to the beer than it already had. I docked 1 point in the taste. It gets a 9 out of 10. For the body, this was a really nice, full, robust body for not even a 6% beer. It gets a perfect 10 out of 10. For the mouthfeel really much matched the body on this beer extremely well. There was a clear note of resistance. It got nice and creamy, and it paired perfectly with the body again, exactly as expected. Mouthfeel gets a 10 out of 10. For the finish, okay, so some hazies are longer than others, but again, we come back to this being pretty mild in terms of overall bitter intensity, and that did impact the finish on this beer. This ended up really just being average, even though it had a nice pungency of flavor without those bitters to really drive out the length. And yes, there were some on the back, and they were nice kind of unoppressive, earthy bitters, which are always a nice kind of great safe space in terms of flavor compounds. It just didn't have enough relative IBUs kicking forward to really drive out the length. So the finish, it really was just average in this case, and I did give it a 5 out of 10. For the head and retention, this one poured a really, really great head that stuck around the entire time I was sipping on this beer. It gets a perfect 10 out of 10. For the appearance, this was that classic textbook IPA color, true bright golden yellow. Appearance gets a 10 out of 10. For the balance, in general, I really, really like the balance on this beer in terms of the flavors that popped in and out, how they balanced with the malt bill, and certainly the yeast strain, even though I couldn't really detect any, oh yeah, that's that genetically modified, but whatever they did with it worked very well together. But again, on the balance, what kept it from perfection for me was, yes, it's a hazy, but still, this was just so mild in the relative, pungency of the bitters. Just a little bit more would have gone a long way. We're talking not even stratospheric, maybe an extra 5 IBUs noticeable worth of bittering to pop out. It would have helped to balance the intensity of these big fruity accents coming out of the beer. I only dock 1 point though. The balance does get a 9 out of 10. Feeling in the intangible, subjectively, I thought this was a great hazy, but for my liking, again, I come back to the bitters. Just a bit more would have really rounded this beer out and made it even more special. Feeling in the intangible, I give a 9 out of 10. Finally, as an example of the style. So this beer did extremely well in most categories, really only lost 1 point in a few, and then 5 in the finish. It's a hazy after all, and it was on the mild end, but this beer was extremely well put together. It was also quite complex, and I think that it did deserve a perfect 10 out of 10 for an example of the style. That is what I gave it, which brings the total score on Fair State Brewing Company's collaborative brew with Mikkeller, New Territories, to a 92 out of 100. So look, guys, just another fantastic beer here. If you are a fan of hazy IPAs, especially if you really don't like bitter beers at all, don't drink normal IPAs at all, you go for hazies because of the big fruity aroma and flavor, this is one of the safest ones for you I've reviewed to date. If you're looking for, an IPA to just get you into IPAs going down that path, and normally you don't drink bitter at all beers, maybe you drink sours, but you like the fruity kind of side, this is another safe stepping stone to get you started down that path. Very, very minimal bitters, but packed full of flavor, full of aroma, really nice texturally, just a fantastic beer. I would recommend this to any IPA fan. Folks, that's today's review. As always, I do sincerely appreciate you tuning in today. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to stay in the loop when our videos go live, just turn on your notifications, hit that bell icon. It's right next to the subscribe button. Until next time, keep it beer, keep it craft. We'll see you on the next one. Cheers.